and welcome to All Things Newark. My name is Karen Dinkins, and my guest today is Tom Alrutz. He's the interim director at the Newark Public Library, one of my favorite places, actually. And I'm so pleased to have Tom on the show because I hear great things are happening at the Newark Public Library, and Tom is here to tell us all about it. Now, Tom, I thought that you retired about 7 years ago.
Yes, 2009 I retired from the New York Public Library after 20 years. I retired to my condo in Point Pleasant Beach.
Nice.
And had a great time, and then this little hurricane thing came along.
Okay.
So we were evacuated. I moved back to my house in Newark full time.
Okay.
And I've been here for the past 4 years.
All right.
So that's how I got back to Newark. With the new administration, I knew the library was having some difficulty. Mm-hmm. I sent my resume and name into Mayor Roth Baraka and said I'd be willing to help out with the Library Board of Trustees.
Well, that's good. So you contacted them and
Right.
said, I'd be willing to help out.
I didn't know if they would take...
Wow, that was great.
You know,
That's great.
Okay,
So
November 2014, I was appointed to the library board, and I started working, and it was a busy board, an engaged board, and we were quite busy. And then Wilma Gray, who had been director for 10 years and at the library for a very long time, announced her retirement for the end of 2015.
Okay.
And so we started searching for someone. I was on the search committee, and we weren't finished by the time that Wilma retired. So we found an interim director, and he stayed for a couple of months, and then he was ready to move on.
Okay.
And so they said to me, well, so I said, I told you last time, no.
Right.
This time I relented. The middle of April, I came on as interim library director. Okay. So I've completed about 9 months as interim director here at the library.
And I hear you're doing fantastic things at the library.
Thank you.
But let's go back to, I guess, about 2010, 2011. I know there were huge budget cuts taking place at the library. Please tell us about that time.
So the previous administration was dealing with issues and budgets and shortages, and the library received several huge cuts, which resulted in a cumulative 35% cut
35%
in the library budget. So that was way more than the library could absorb. It was devastating.
Right.
So all positions were frozen. There were essentially no books being bought.
Right.
Almost no repairs were made. Computers were not being replaced.
I remember going to the library and it was closed due to budget cuts.
Hours were cut.
Right.
Both at branches and at main library.
Now, did any branches close as a result of those budget cuts?
The only branch that was closed, yes. First was Roseville was closed because of lack of staff, and then Madison area and First Avenue were closed permanently. They were in rental sites, so they were able to cancel the leases and close those locations, and the other locations are all in permanent city-owned buildings.
Okay. Now, how long did you go through that, I guess, downward spiral? Because that was pretty bad.
Well, it actually started after 2008, so 2009 through till 2016.
Okay.
So all those cuts took place, and there was no increase. So the bottom cut amount stayed as the same budget, no increases, until 2016, when Mayor Baraka gave us a 2% increase.
Okay.
And we reworked the amount that the city was charging the library for fringe benefits and agreed on a new amount, a new dollar amount,
Okay.
and that gave us effectively about a 7% increase
Oh, that's good.
to expend.
That's good.
So in my time, we did an awful lot of repairs,
Okay.
leaking roofs, branches being closed because of problems, main library problems. We did an awful lot of repairs. We restored the book budget to be buying
You're able to buy more books now?
more books, significant number of books. We started replacing the computers.
Okay.
We did a significant change in our orientation to look to increase our funding from other sources beside the city.
Okay. So
Both.
let's talk about some of those other sources.
So, of course, we tapped individuals, corporations, and businesses. We established a foundation.
You didn't have that before?
No.
Okay.
So we now have a foundation whose purpose is to raise money for the Newark Public Library. And there's a tremendous effort
That's great.
and emphasis in that area, and it's very successful, and we're rolling. We've raised a lot of money for long and short term, and the most significant gift in 2016 was a $1 million grant from the Carnegie Corporation of New York.
Awesome. That's wonderful.
So we're doing a program with that money, of digitizing library materials that we own that document the migration of the African American communities from the South to the North in Newark,
Nice.
and documenting and digitizing the Latino communities from nations and islands to Newark. So we're taking the material that exists in one copy, digitizing it, and we'll make it available broadly to people, both in and outside the library. And then we'll go to use that Carnegie grant to do a dissemination phase emphasizing family literacy, working with schools, families, and the libraries to have families and teachers and students engage in looking at their families and what their backgrounds were, where they came from, the stories of the great aunts, the grandparents, and the great grandparents, and the things that we have documented in the library, to tell their story, to engage in words, to deal with multiple generations, with other languages, Spanish predominantly for the Latino community. And then the third phase of the Carnegie was to increase our capacity to raise money and to work in this community that is much more difficult with public funding.
Wow, that is excellent.
So that's one of the big stories of 2016.
That is certainly a great story. Now, when is all of this going to get started?
The Carnegie grant has been received. We're already in the planning. We're up and running. We're going through the materials we have and choosing the materials that are going to be digitized internally, that are going outside to vendors to be digitized. So it's underway.
That seems like it's going to take a while.
Well, it's a 2-year project.
2-year project. Okay.
So the first year will be mainly on preparing, and the second year will be mainly on disseminating.
Wow. Now, a lot of times people say libraries are passé, or they're becoming obsolete because of the technology that we have. Everybody is using their Kindle or listening to audiobooks or using alternate methods than a book. What do you have to say about that?
Well, of course, that's an obvious statement, but in general, the people who say that haven't been in a library.
Okay.
They don't know what's going on.
All right.
In the last recession, which we're emerging from, public libraries have been used more than ever.
Okay.
More people, more programs, more uses, more borrowing, using the library, but not the same way.
Okay.
So if
now,
you can't afford to load your Kindle because you are on a limited budget, but somebody gives you a Kindle, you can download the books from the library for free,
Okay. So that's good.
etc. You can download audiobooks, so you can borrow audio, video, print books, whatever it is that you want. You can attend the programs that are in the library.
Now let's talk about the programs, because the library has some excellent programs.
Well,
Let's talk about some
First of all, let me mention in this year we started English as a second language programs.
Oh, okay.
So we have ESL programs funded by the Department of Labor in cooperation with La Casa de Don Pedro in 3 locations, Van Buren, Branch Brook, and the main library. So we tried daytime, evening classes, very well subscribed. We're often running. With the Department of Labor and another grant, we're doing job search assistance. People can't look for jobs without computers, printers, high-speed internet, knowledge, assistance. We're prepared at all of our locations with our computers and high-speed internet to assist people who come in. You can essentially only apply for a job now online. If you don't have a computer, if you don't have high-speed internet, if you don't have a printer, you can't do your resume, you're handicapped. People come to the library, I need help doing this, that. We help you. You can then reserve a computer in another area on your own, do your work. If you have a problem, you go back to the librarians and the staff and say, how do I do this? I need to upload my picture. How do I do that? How do I scan that? Whatever you need. Department of Labor provides sites about jobs. We help to push you toward those so you can see what it is. People come in all the time, and we know they come back and say, I got that job.
Oh,
you helped
that's
us.
Excellent. That's
so
excellent.
we get the feedback.
So I would like to say, everybody, if you are looking for a job right now, if you need some help with your resume, if you need to get on the computer, use the printer, use the scanner, the public library, Newark Public Library, can assist you. So please go to the library and they can help you get a job. Now, what are your hours? Just tell us what the hours are.
The main library is open Monday, Friday, and Saturday, 9 to 5:30, and Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 9 to 8:30.
Okay.
The branches are open Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday, 9:30 to 5:30, and Wednesday, 1 to 8:30, one evening.
Okay.
And then they're open for a half a day on Saturday, 11 to 3.
Okay.
So every day,
Right. And then you
except
have
Monday. Oh, I lied.
Okay.
The branches are closed on Monday because of our budget cuts. We were open Monday. We traded it for the Saturday to give more people the access
half day to come in on the weekend. Perfect.
Closed Monday.
Okay. All right. So now let's talk about some of the different ways people can go online and get books, go to the library, and essentially use the library in a different way. Let's talk about that.
So we have a very robust website that's available if you have a computer, and you can use it, and you can use your smartphone to access it.
And the website is?
npl.org.
Okay.
And on there, you can see information about the programs and services upcoming for months, everything that's happening. You can access the digital resources that are there.
Okay. Digital resources like what?
Things that are scanned, like the Knowing Newark book, where we took some of Charles Cummings' columns and put them into a book and published them and distributed it for free as part of the 350 celebration.
Yes.
Well, we're putting all of those columns online on the library website.
Nice. Okay.
So that we would have scanned and loaded, for instance.
Okay.
And then the library catalog is available. So by putting in any words of anything that you're looking for broadly, you can look up and see, what do we own? Where is it?
Okay.
Can I reserve it?
Okay.
Can I borrow it? Is it reference only? You can see all of our resources 24/7. The website's open 24/7. You can look at the catalog 24/7.
Nice.
So that's a different. So we have to keep track of how many people visit the library virtually,
Okay.
and not just how many people visit the library in person.
Okay.
So we're just working on trying to capture that better, because the number of people who come into the library physically is lower
Right.
than it was in the older era, where you had to go
Right.
to do everything and look in the card catalog, because that was the way you had to do it. Now we keep track of the virtual visits. You can really do a lot.
Virtually.
If you're in a school, a college, a university, you have high-speed internet. At home, you have a computer. You can do a lot of work. So you're going to be able to look at all of these things that we're scanning on the background files on the African American migration. You'll be able to look at those
Oh,
remotely.
that's nice.
Not
Very
have to come
nice.
into the library
Right.
and retrieve something that's a single copy, that we have to be careful how you're using it and touching it and so forth. You'll be able to freely use it, print out, whatever you want to do.
Okay. Now let's talk about the events at the library.
Sure.
You have some really nice events. Let's talk about those. What do you have coming up?
So coming up in January, we'll have the opening of a World War I exhibit. And I mention that because most people probably don't know or remember that April 6th, 1917 was the date in which the U.S. entered World War I.
Oh, wow.
So George Robb, the guest curator, has culled from the library collections, not from elsewhere, all from library collections, Newark in World War I. Everything that was going on and happening in Newark in relation to World War and what happened. So January 20th,
January 20th.
that will be opening. January 21st, we'll have our Martin Luther King annual event and lecture.
Okay.
And 2 p.m., Howard Dotson, the former chief of the Schomburg Center in New York City,
Nice.
and the former head of the Howard University Libraries,
Okay.
and a longtime Newark resident,
Wow. I'll be there.
will
for
be
that
coming
one.
into the library and giving a talk on becoming America from Obama to Trump.
Oh, boy.
Can't we wait to hear what that's going to sound like?
That sounds great. Now, that's on the 21st.
On the Saturday, the 21st, 2 p.m.
Okay.
Then coming up in February, Black History Month, we'll have 5 programs.
5. Okay.
Saturday the 4th, we'll have a film and documentary. The film, produced by Rutgers Newark, Once and Future Newark, featuring our own Clement Alexander Price.
Oh, that's great.
So that'll be nice.
Okay.
Later that afternoon, we'll have a discussion on some of the parts of Black Newark that are disappearing and disappeared.
Oh,
So we'll have representatives from Baxter Terrace, the public housing project on
Right.
Orange Street, which
That's
was
no more.
removed, and Queen of Angels Parish, where the church and the buildings have been torn down. So people are still grieving and lamenting those 2 great establishments that were such a part of people's lives. So we'll have representatives from those 2 groups coming in to talk about their experiences in growing up and living and praying and worshiping
Nice.
there.
Now, how do you choose these different events that you're going to have at the library? They're always fabulous. How do you come up with the topics?
Well, we work a year ahead of time
Okay.
by constantly working with staff and our programming consultants to help us think of things that are possible that are good. So we try to line up things ahead of time and still leave some spaces to be open to things that emerge.
Okay.
So the documentary was there, and we knew it, and we wanted to show it.
Okay.
The Baxter Terrace and Queen of Angels really emerged right up from the community and saying, we would really like to do that.
So you were listening.
So we're listening and saying, let's do that. Another program on Wednesday the 8th at 6 p.m. is going to be a presentation on the disenfranchisement of the black vote, the Voting Rights Act of 2016.
Yes.
So we know that the Supreme Court lessened the extent of that law, which had so much to do with the African American community being able to freely vote without impediments. And we know some of what's going on. So Zaid Mohammed is going to give us a talk about that.
Okay.
Then on the 11th, and Saturday, we'll have another film and discussion, and the movie will be the documentary 13th, which talks about the
prison
population in the U.S., the percentage that the U.S. is of the world.
Right, the
5%, 25% of our the prison population of the world, and of those, 40% are black men.
Yes, I saw that, and it's powerful. And people need to go out and see that. You have so many wonderful things happening at the library. It's right here, and it's free. Free of charge. So please get down to the Newark Library to check out some of these wonderful things that are happening right here in the community. Now tell me what you are most proud of since you've been there at the library. I know you have Phil Roth.
Well, for 2016, the one of the major things was the first Philip Roth lecture given by Zadie Smith. So it was a fabulous event that was recognized locally, nationally, and internationally. We got press coverage around the world.
That's
in multiple
amazing.
languages. And on that occasion, then we announced that Philip Roth was bequeathing us his personal library and some furnishings from his writing area coming to the Newark Public Library.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So we're now underway, begun our fundraising and our planning to create the space and to create an endowment so that we have staff not funded by the city, but through our efforts, our other efforts, so that we have staff that can keep that room open to the public, functioning for the community, for students, for visitors, for the college students to come in and have seminars, for people to come in and touch Philip Roth's writing desk, look at his big refectory table, see his chairs that he sat in while he was reading, look at his books, his personal library arranged in his own order, which will maintain that things that he's read, all the books that he's read during his entire adult reading life, that he has his personal copies.
And he grew up in the Weequahic section of Newark.
Correct.
And with that, I do believe we are out of time. But at this rate, Tom, you're never going to go back to retirement. You're doing such wonderful things at the Newark Public Library. And I, for one, am fabulous. I'm happy that you are doing such a great job. And I am going to be to those events in January and February. And all things Newark viewers, I hope that you're there too. Thanks a lot for joining us on All Things Newark. And thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.